Hello everyone, my name's ThickManatee and welcome to my first attempt at a podcast or something. I'm not really sure what I want this to be right now, but I'm kind of making it my own sort of podcast. Most people usually make podcasts like weekly or every couple of weeks, I guess. I wanted to try to do something slightly different, I guess. I want to try to make this once a month because I don't think this is something I really want to do every week. I feel like I want to try to do more gameplay oriented things. So I don't think this is something I wouldn't really want to do every week. But I do want to try to do something where I just kind of talk and share my thoughts about things that happen related to a bunch of stuff like video games or movies or TV shows or anything that I enjoy, really. I kind of just want to share my thoughts on some of the stuff. So I figured I can do something where I talk about what's happened in the past month, like revolving around all those things that I just said. I kind of just want to try to start this out, like feel out what I want to do with it for the moment. So what it will probably be is just me talking for most of the time. I'll probably have some gameplay in the back. I actually recorded some like random games that I've been playing just to kind of have that as like background footage. So I might put that in here, and I'll probably be putting some sort of like, I don't know, footage or pictures or something about the stuff that I'll be talking about, because I will be talking about quite a lot of stuff. I actually wrote down a lot of notes and everything. So I kind of put a little bit of work into this before I actually started recording, and I'll probably have to put in more in the editing process. But yeah, my voice is gonna be maybe slightly edited. Like I might cut out some stuff in case I like mess up or I have to go to the bathroom or something. I don't know. The editing will mostly be like visual and stuff. So because I would like to make it somewhat interactive, I guess. So I watch a lot of different podcasts where they usually have like some sort of set, but sometimes they have something like playing in the background, like on a TV or like in a smaller window or something. So I kind of wanted to do that for this. Like I'll probably have some sort of gameplay, like as the main thing. But then when I start talking about something, I'll probably show something related to that. Like if I talk about a game or something, which I'll be doing a lot of today, because I plan to talk about E3. So I'll probably show like some trailers or something as I'm talking about those things to kind of make it a little bit more interactive. And I'm sure, you can listen to it as well. This could be like an audio thing. I'm probably not going to put it on like iTunes or anything, because this is my first like attempt at anything podcast related. So I'm not going to do anything like that. It'll probably just be on YouTube, but it's something that you could watch in the background if you want, because that's usually when I watch a lot of podcasts. If I want to watch the podcast, I sometimes actually watch it, but if I don't feel like, watching it, I just feel like listening, then I'll have it in the background while I'm playing a game or doing something else. So I kind of want my thing to be similar to that. And one thing that I've thought about is this first one I want to have it like a solo thing, but I may in the future invite my friends to talk if they want. It depends on what I'm talking about, because some stuff like only I might be interested in, so they might not care, so it might not be as interesting. But I think I've introed it enough. I think we can get on to what I want to talk about today. And so like I said, I'm going to talk about the stuff that happened in the past month. This past month was June. One of the very big things that happened was E3, and I actually recorded some of the conferences live, and I recorded my reaction to them. The other ones I watched. I didn't watch them live. Not all of them, but, like half and half, I guess. Well, that's mainly what I'll be talking about, because there were so many games announced. And that's actually a good thing, because in the last couple of E3s, like, they've announced a lot of games, but mostly it's been about, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and then there was VR, and they've been doing a lot of like technological stuff. They've been focusing on the technology more than the actual games. But I think since that's kind of out of the way, I mean, the most recent thing was the Switch, but I mean, that's been out for a couple months. Everybody pretty much knows what it's about now, because Nintendo had their own like press conference about that like way before E3. So there's no like real new groundbreaking technology, so there was a lot of games this year, and they were all mostly exciting or interesting in a way, I guess. I'm probably not gonna play everything, but most of the games looked interesting, and I might check them out if I can. And I'm going to start in order of the press conferences, like how they happened. So the first press conference was EA. That was on the Saturday of E3. And EA, usually mostly they just show sports games, which they did this time as well, like as usual. And I've been showing Star Wars now because they have the license to do like all Star Wars games. And then they showed a couple of different things. The first thing that they showed was Madden 18. That's it doesn't seem like it's nothing new. It's another Madden game. It's football. It's what it's been like for a long time. But it did seem a little bit more interesting because it feels like they're putting a little bit more effort into it because they have a story mode now. I think it's called like Long Shot or something. And actually I think they had a couple of different actors in it. The one actor that stood out was Mahershala Ali. And I actually looked up his name, like how to say it. Like I watched interviews and stuff because I didn't want to say his name wrong. But he's been in a lot of stuff lately. He was in Moonlight, which was it was like the best movie of the year last year. I watched it. It was pretty good overall. It wasn't my personal favorite, but it was a very good movie overall. And he was also in Luke Cage. And he was in some other stuff, but those were the two things that I saw him in last year, and I know that he's been doing a lot of stuff. So it's cool that they're trying to do something new with Madden. It's not just, football, like you can play against friends or you can do a season or whatever. It's not the same old thing. They're trying to innovate in a way, and I always appreciate that in games. And then after that, they talked about the Battlefield 1 DLC. In the Name of the Tsar. I honestly don't know if they released any other DLC yet. I feel like they did. I think I remember them releasing some other DLC, but this one is supposed to be a bigger one because they're adding a whole bunch of new maps. There's like snow maps now. There's maps at nighttime, and they're adding female characters as well, which some people might get mad about. I actually watched a video yesterday on Twitter. It was like about a guy who was getting like super pissed because women were in the new Call of Duty, which is pretty dumb. Because I mean, it's not historically accurate, but it doesn't really matter. It's a video game, and it's not a like super realistic video game at that. I mean, it's slightly realistic, but still, it's a video game overall, and it's for fun. So if there are females in it, it shouldn't really matter that much. It's not like a documentary or a history book or anything. It's a video game, so it's mostly for fun. But they announced this new Battlefield 1 DLC. It looks pretty cool, I guess. I mean, they're adding a lot of new maps, and they already like the maps in Battlefield are already pretty large, so it'll be cool to get more of the bigger maps. I have Battlefield 1. I haven't played it too much, but I might check it out more when the DLC comes out. I believe it comes out in September or October. I'm not entirely sure about that. And then after that, they showed A Way Out, which was one of the like few actual games that wasn't a sports game. So this seems like a Prison Break kind of game. It's like a split screen co-op game. I didn't see too much about this, but I know everybody was very interested in it. It mostly looks like you start out as two people in prison, and then you kind of have to escape and then stay on the run from the cops, something like that. And the big thing about it, I think, was that it's a split screen co-op. I'm not sure if it's like online co-op as well, but it's nice to see split screen still going, I guess, because most people play online with each other now on PC and consoles. Everything has online now. Even Nintendo's getting it. But it's nice to see that they're still making split screen kind of games. They have A Way Out. They still have stuff like Overcooked and all those indie games that are local co-op, I guess. So it's nice to see that they're still doing that. They're not completely giving up on local co-op or couch co-op kind of stuff. And then after that, they showed the game that I was most excited to see at EA, and one of the games I was most excited to see at E3 overall, Star Wars Battlefront 2. And I have said it a couple times in some of my videos, I think, or I may have said it in videos that I never uploaded, but Star Wars is my favorite thing overall. Like, anything entertainment related, Star Wars is like at the top for me. I love Star Wars. Maybe I should count. I have about like 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 posters in my room of Star Wars. I have plenty of Funko Pops, the little bobblehead things. I got plenty of those. I have action figures and small little mini figures. I actually have the VHSs of the original trilogy. I wasn't around for those when they came out in theaters, but I do have the VHSs. So I grew up with the prequels, so I was kind of around for VHS and whatnot, but whatever. Star Wars is my favorite thing, like, overall. I'm very excited for Star Wars Battlefront 2 because we don't have a lot of Star Wars games. There's Battlefront and SWTOR, and that's pretty much it, I guess. They have all the phone games, which I've played some of them and they're fun for a little while, but phone games to me, like, I don't really play them too often. Plus, they're nothing like a Battlefront or SWTOR or anything. So I'm very excited for Battlefront 2 because the first one, the original 2 Battlefronts were pretty great for the time. Battlefront 2 was amazing back in, 2005 when it came out. It was a great game then, and it has aged sort of, well. Some people still play it, but it's an older game now. Obviously, it's, 12 years old now, and it's still cool, but there's a lot more stuff they could do now, and it looks like that's what they're doing with Battlefront 2. They're adding the story mode that they didn't have in the first Battlefront that came out 2 years ago. They're adding all the eras, prequels, original trilogy, and now we have the sequel trilogy that they can add. And they're adding classes now. They didn't have that in the second game, in the first game. They just had the separate guns that you can get in the cards, like the star cards that they had. But now they're adding actual classes, which is kind of a thing that most games are doing now. Ever since Overwatch, most things kind of do like a hero system, or like there's always specific roles, like a tank or a support or something like that. So Battlefront 2 is also kind of doing that, but obviously they're doing it in a Star Wars way. There'll be like officers and heavies and stuff like that. I'm excited to personally check out all the different ones because I watched a lot of the gameplay. They had a lot of gameplay for Battlefront 2, which is nice. I'm glad they did that because they didn't have a whole lot for the first Battlefront, and everybody thought it would be good, just because, but it wasn't that good. But this one looks like it'll be pretty good, I think. And they showed a lot of gameplay, but I'm hoping to play. I'm pretty sure there's a beta. I'm hoping to play that and kind of see everything firsthand and try out all the classes and stuff. And then they're also adding more guns and vehicles and worlds and everything like that. They're going to add a lot more planets since there's all the eras now. And there's going to be more guns because there's more eras and vehicles. They're all adding that mostly because there's pretty much all of Star Wars is in this game. And then they're also adding more heroes, obviously, because they got to have Darth Maul and everybody and Yoda. And then they got to have Luke and Darth Vader. And then they got to have Rey and Kylo Ren. They got to have some people from all the eras. So they're adding, it sounds like a lot of stuff. And I'm very excited for that. Because the first game had a good amount of stuff. But it didn't most people's problems with it, and mine kind of as well. Like, I liked it at first, but I kind of had the same problem as everyone else after a while. It didn't have a lot of content at the beginning. So it seems like they fixed that and they're adding a whole lot of content now. And that is going to be very cool to see. Also, they're going to have free DLC since they had a season pass last time and nobody liked that at all. Even though a lot of people bought it. I'm one of those people. Although I bought it on sale. I didn't buy it at $50 like it was normally. But I did buy it. And I like most of this stuff. But now they're doing free DLC because now it won't like separate people. Because in the first game, people got, separated because some people didn't want to buy it. Some people did buy it. But there weren't enough people that bought it. So they'd just be playing with less people. And it was a mess. So free DLC sounds like a great idea. And they're still going to be making money off of it because they're going to be adding microtransactions. So they'll probably have like skins and stuff for your character and possibly your guns. And they'll be adding all the star cards and stuff they have. You can probably buy some of the better ones or I think they said they're adding like boxes. Again, kind of like Overwatch. They're going to be adding like loot boxes or something. But they're adding a whole lot of stuff to Star Wars Battlefront 2, and it looked very good from what I saw. I'm also very interested in the campaign because it's one from the Empire's perspective, and two, it's actually canon. It's like a story that actually matters in the Star Wars universe in between Episode 6 and 7, where we don't have a lot of stories. I mean, they have a couple of comics and books about it, but we don't have a whole lot, and now we get to see some, cinematic stuff that happened in between 6 and 7, and I'm very excited to see that all. Star Wars Battlefront 2 is probably one of my most anticipated games for this year. One reason, because it sounds like it's going to be what the original game should have been. People say that about a lot of games when they don't turn out to be that good in the beginning, but then they get better the second time. But it seems like this one's going to be what it should have been the first time. Also, it's Star Wars, so I'm going to love it for sure. And now, with that said, that's the end of EA. So now I'll go ahead and move on to Xbox. So the big thing about Xbox was they announced their new console. It's not really new, but it's an upgraded Xbox One. It's called the Xbox One X. The great name that Microsoft came up with. It's the most powerful console now, which is impressive, but it's still not better than a PC. So, I mean, to people like me, which, a lot of people who play on PC, they're not as impressed about console stuff, but it's good for people who only have consoles, because now they can run a lot of the stuff a little bit better. And there's 4K, that's what they were kind of freaking out about a lot during the press conference. They were just saying like everything's in 4K now. And so, I mean, this one it's upgraded slightly. It's still not better than the PC, but it is upgraded, and that'll be better for people who only can afford a console or something. And then another cool thing that they announced was that all the Xbox One and 360 games, those are still backwards compatible. But now you can play the original Xbox games, which is really interesting. And whenever the price goes down for an Xbox One X, I may get it myself. It's $500 at launch. I don't need that. I still don't have a Switch, and that's cheaper, and I want a Switch more than I want an Xbox. But if I do end up getting an Xbox at some point, I'll have more than enough games to play. So that will be pretty cool to see how many games they actually have on there. And then speaking of games, they announced a lot of games at Xbox. Xbox was one of the better conferences, I think, because they announced a lot of the games that we saw at E3. The first game they announced was Metro Exodus. It's the third Metro game in the Metro series. They had Metro 2033 and Metro Last Light. I haven't beaten either of those games. I've played them and I know basically what they're about, but I haven't beaten any of them. I actually bought them recently because of the Steam Summer Sale, so I will be playing them. And I'm excited for Metro Exodus because it looks way better than the other two games, and the other two games are already really cool. So this one should be a no-brainer to play. And it looks like you can go outside now. I remember in the other games you couldn't go outside because there was some sort of like poison or radiation in the air in the game. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. And I'm not sure, but it might be like a different story since it's been a while since they released Last Light. It might be a different story entirely, or it might just be a different part of Russia or something, because it is set in Russia. So I'm interested to see what the story's about and how long the game takes place after Last Light. They had a lot of indie games that they showed off. One of them was Deep Rock Galactic. It seems really interesting. It's like a first-person kind of game, and the art style's sort of like Minecraft or Astroneer or some kind of indie game where it's kind of cartoony and slightly, I mean, it's not like Minecraft where it's like all blocky, but it's kind of that style, I guess, just without the blocks, and it seems like a survival kind of game. It looks pretty interesting. It looks like you would probably collect stuff, and you had guns, and there was a lot of enemies you fought. Yeah, it looks like you just collect a lot of stuff. It's probably like a survival type game. It could be interesting. If it's on PC, I might check it out. It looks like it could be a pretty cool game, but it definitely looked like an indie game or like a early access kind of game. Doesn't seem like it's gonna be like a AAA game, but it could be cool, I would think. And then after that was Ori and the Will of the Wisps. I have not played the first Ori, which is Ori in the Blind Forest, but I'm sure this will be similar. Just the story will probably be different. Although if I remember correctly, Ori didn't really have much of a story per se. Like there weren't cutscenes or anything. It was kind of like a Dark Souls or something like that, where the story is kind of in the world and in the lore. You kind of got to find out the story on your own. But I'm sure, this one will probably just be similar to the first game. It's a continuation, I'm pretty sure, and I'm sure it'll be improved gameplay-wise and all that. Because the first game came out in like 2015, I think. And the second one probably isn't coming out till next year, I don't think. So I'm sure it'll be a much more improved Ori. Everybody said the first one was really good, and I believe that's still on sale for the Steam Summer Sale. So I'm probably gonna check it out at some point. I do want to play more indie games that everybody likes, so Ori could be a good one to check out. And then after that is Life is Strange Before the Storm. I played the first Life is Strange, which was a very cool game. I heard stuff about it before I played it, and I thought it was kind of like a hipster Tumblr, like, one of those kind of games. And a lot of people made jokes about that, and it is kind of like that, but it's interesting, and I kind of like that kind of atmosphere. It's not too bad. I enjoyed it. But this one's a prequel, and you're probably going to play as Chloe, who was kind of like the second main character in the first one. She was like the main character's best friend, and there was a lot of stuff that they talked about in the first game that like happened with her. So I would think that that's probably what they're gonna show in this game. You're probably gonna go through it, like you're probably gonna experience it as her instead of just hearing stuff about it. And it's only 3 episodes. It's like a Telltale kind of game. If you haven't seen Life is Strange, it's like an episodic game. There's only 3 episodes for this one instead of the usual 5, but I'm sure it'll be just as interesting as the first one. Might even be better, I don't know. Then after that was Cuphead. That is a game that they've, it was first announced in 2014. They've been talking about it like at the Xbox E3 thing for a while. It finally got a release date, which is September 29th of this year. So that's nice that it actually is finally getting released. And the main thing that everybody's liked about it so far is the art style, which does look really cool. It's kind of like a 30s or 40s like cartoon. It's kind of, I believe it's like a, like a 2D side scroller kind of thing, but the art style is pretty much what makes it what it is. It's finally coming out. I think I might check it out because I've heard about it for so long. So I'm probably going to check it out when it finally comes out. And then after that was Code Vein. It kind of looks to me like an anime Dark Souls or something like a Souls-like game where it's, harder, and if you die, you lose everything. So it seems similar to that. I'm sure it'll probably be good, and it comes out next year, which could be a problem depending on when it comes out, because they didn't announce a new From Software game yet, but when they announced Dark Souls 3, they announced it at Gamescom. And I'm thinking that's probably what they're going to do this year at Bloodborne 2 or whatever game they're coming out with next. They're probably going to announce it at Gamescom. And it'll probably come out in March or April, like the beginning of next year, because that's generally when the From Software games come out. So whatever Souls game they have might conflict with Code Vein, but maybe it'd be a good thing. They might have 2 really cool Souls type games to play next year. And then after that, they showed The Last Night, which was another like super indie game. It's like a 2.5D 8-bit cyberpunk kind of game. It looks pretty interesting. I would definitely like to see more, because what they showed was, I mean, it looked mostly like cinematic, and I'd like to see more of the actual gameplay for it. I believe that comes out next year as well. But that definitely looks like one of those indie games that everybody be talking about, and I definitely want to try it out. And then they also showed State of Decay 2, which looks like it's changed a bit from the first State of Decay, which I played and I enjoyed a lot, but I'd like to see more of the gameplay, because the gameplay was the best part of the first State of Decay, in my opinion. The gameplay was really fun, and I like how you can build up your survivors and your base and everything. It was a really cool concept, I think. The only problem was the story. Like, I did not like the story at all. It was just like a generic kind of bland and, boring zombie story that wasn't really cool. I don't know. I didn't like it that much. But I hope this one will have a little bit more of an interesting story. And if it doesn't, like I said, the gameplay will still be there. And I'd like to see if there's co-op. They said they were going to add co-op to the first game, I thought, but they never did. And now I think I heard that they're adding co-op to the second one. I'm not entirely sure if it's confirmed or not, but if they do add co-op, that would be a really cool bonus to play with friends. So I'm looking forward to State of Decay 2. It's not, I'm not super excited for it, but I'm pretty excited for it. It could be pretty good. And then after that, they showed Sea of Thieves, which could be a very, very good game. I'm very excited for Sea of Thieves. It's a pirate game that you play with. It's kind of like a open world MMO type game, sort of like Destiny or something, but it's a pirate game, and it looks like it'll be one of those games that's better with friends. Like, you probably wouldn't play it with yourself unless there's some sort of matchmaking or something like that. And it looks like it's very promising. The more, like, every time I see new gameplay for it, I get even more excited. So I hope that it delivers on what it looks like it's going to be. I hope it isn't, just boring and you're just sailing around doing nothing. I hope it's actually as entertaining and fun as it looks. And then after they showed Shadow of War, which is the new Middle-earth Lord of the Rings game. The first Shadow of Mordor was a fantastic game. The Nemesis system that they had was a really, unique system, and that's coming back for this game, and it's really it's the only game that it's been in that nobody's really tried to copy this system or anything. So it's kind of cool that it's specific to Shadow of War. And this one looks like they improved it a lot, because now you can capture forts and castles and all that kind of stuff and use your armies to fight for you instead of just using like a couple guys like in the first game. I really hope the story is good too, because if the story is as good as all that other stuff, this could really be a Game of the Year contender, I think. It could be close to Zelda or whatever else is coming out this year. So I'm really excited to see how good Shadow of War is. I hope it's way better than the last one, and I hope it's really, good enough to possibly be Game of the Year, because it looks like it could be. So next they showed Assassin's Creed Origins, which is the new Assassin's Creed, and I'm really looking forward to it if it's good. The last couple of Assassin's Creeds, they were pretty good gameplay wise, but the story was, not very interesting at all and kind of pointless. And there's a lot of side activities that were, you can collect a bunch of stuff, but didn't really get you anything. Like in the original games, you would collect stuff and you'd actually get something for it. But this one looks like it could be pretty good. I heard people who played it. They said it was actually a lot different than the other Assassin's Creed, so I'm interested to play it for myself, because Assassin's Creed used to be one of my favorite franchises. It still is, but like I said, in the more recent games, I kind of lost a little bit of interest in it, but I hope this one will make me more interested in it again. And I'll probably like it anyway, I think. Like I said, as long as the gameplay's good, I'll probably enjoy it. Might not go back to it like some of the original games that I have gone back to, but I'll probably enjoy it nonetheless. And then there was Crackdown 3, which was probably the game that I was most excited for at the Xbox panel conference. Crackdown 3 was announced a while ago, and I'm glad to see that it's finally coming out, because the second Crackdown, the last one that came out was in like 2010, I think, or 2011, so it's been a while since they released a Crackdown game. And I love Crackdown 2. I played it a lot with my friends on 360. That's how long ago it was. But it was a very enjoyable game, and I hope this one is similar to it. But it looks like they improved a lot of stuff, and I hope that the story's a little bit more interesting this time, because in the other game, it was mostly about just, having fun and destroying stuff, and they have that in this as well. But I hope there's actually an interesting story to go with that, because that would make the game all the more better. But yeah, an interesting story isn't entirely necessary. It would just be a nice touch to that kind of a game. And then the last big thing that I like to talk about for Xbox that they showed was Anthem. That is a new game from BioWare. They're the ones who make Mass Effect and Dragon Age and the old Knights of the Old Republic games. So BioWare generally makes pretty good games. I'm hoping Anthem will be good as well. It looks pretty interesting, but it does look like it could be a game that gets hyped up a lot and turns into a Destiny or No Man's Sky or Watch Dogs or Mass Effect Andromeda or The Division or any of those kind of games where people thought they were going to be, the best game ever, and then they played it and it's like, it's not that good of a game. So I'm just hoping it isn't one of those disappointing games, but it does seem like it has a cool kind of premise. It looks like it's sort of like you have like some sort of Iron Man type suit, and it does look like a loot collecting game, but it seems like you're fighting interesting enemies and stuff. So I hope that it's good, but I feel like they haven't shown enough right now for us to know if it's going to be good for sure. So we'll probably just have to keep an eye on it, I guess. And now that is pretty much the end of Xbox, so we'll go ahead and move on to the Bethesda conference. Bethesda was one of the conferences that they didn't have a whole lot of stuff to show. They kind of showed like a couple new things, and then they just told us about some stuff that's upcoming that we kind of already knew about. For the most part, it was alright. Slightly disappointing, but they showed a good amount of stuff. I feel like, and a lot of people also felt like they didn't really need an entire conference this year, because it wasn't like 2 years ago when they started their conference when they had Doom and Dishonored 2 and Fallout 4 and everything. So they might not have needed a whole conference this year, but it was not bad. It was okay to see everything that they had. It was nice to see everything they had. The first couple things they showed were the VR games that they have coming out. They showed Doom VFR. I believe that means Doom Virtual Fucking Reality, because that's usually what the F in anything Doom related means. It looks pretty cool. I'm excited to see someone actually play it though, because from the trailer they had, I couldn't really entirely get a feel for it. But I'd like to see somebody else. I would like to see somebody record it and put it up. That would be a lot more interesting to see than the trailer. And if they keep coming out with stuff like this for VR, I'll probably have to try to get VR sooner, because I do not have anything VR related right now. But if they keep putting out good stuff VR wise, then I might have to check out VR sooner than I expect I would. And then they also show Fallout 4 VR, which is exciting because it seems like it's going to be the first full length game that's in VR. and there's obviously a lot of stuff to do in Fallout, so it could be a really good VR game to play. And it's also good because, I mean, you don't really have to play it for a long time. Fallout's the game where you can kind of start and stop at certain areas, so if you get tired of using VR, you could stop, or you can use it for a longer time if you're fine with that. So I think Fallout 4 is a pretty good game to be like one of the first full-length VR games. And then they also showed the somewhat controversial Creation Club, which I'm not entirely sure what it is still, but I think it's mostly like paid mods targeted at consoles. I believe they are having it on they are going to have it on PC as well, but it seems like it's mostly for consoles, I guess, because it's a lot of mods that it's like, I think it's something that the best modders will make and that Bethesda themselves make. And I think the main thing of it all is like, you can check this stuff out if you want, but if you're on PC, there's still the Nexus and everything. So this is just kind of like a side thing, I think. They're not forcing the paid mods, really. So it'll be interesting to see what this really is, because they didn't really explain it too well at their conference, but I'd like to see what it's really about. And then they also showed Dishonored Death of the Outsider, which is the DLC for Dishonored 2. It's the first one. I'd really like if they release more DLC, because I'm pretty sure the first game had like 2 DLCs at least. So I'd like to see more DLC for Dishonored 2 after this. But this one does seem very interesting. They haven't told much about it yet, but it seems like you're gonna kill the Outsider, which is crazy because he's like the supernatural like god of the Dishonored universe. So it'll be interesting to see how the story goes. And it's coming out already in September, so we don't have to wait too long for it. And I'm excited to play it because I really love Dishonored 2. It was one of my favorite games of last year. So I'm very excited to try out the DLC and get back into Dishonored. And then the 2 biggest things that Bethesda showed were their new games, Evil Within 2 and Wolfenstein 2. The Evil Within 2 is coming out in October, so it could be like a cool game for Halloween, I think, because it's supposed to be a horror game. But I mean, I don't know too much about the Evil Within. I might check out the first one because I'm sure it's cheap now, because the first one came out a while ago, and I might check out to see what it's about. I heard that it was pretty decent, so I'm sure the second one will be pretty good. They didn't show a lot of gameplay at the conference, but it looks like it'll be interesting. And then Wolfenstein 2, it looks like all the crazy parts of all the Bethesda games, but all in one game pretty much. And I've actually been playing the first Wolfenstein. After seeing this, I wanted to play the first one because I have it on Steam, but I never played it. I remember everybody saying it was good, so I'm pretty sure I got it one time when it was on sale. But I'm actually playing it now, and it's very interesting. I love the story about it. It's, something different. It's not a story that gets, like they don't really talk about that kind of a story too often, where it's like an alternate, into World War II. But I'm very interested to see what Wolfenstein 2 is like, because I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be in America. The first game is mostly in Europe, at least what I've played so far. I don't know if they ever go to America or not. But the second game looks like it's in America, which will be very interesting, because, in the Wolfenstein story, America got bombed by the Nazis. So it'll be interesting to see like how much the people want to fight back. And this game will probably be a lot better too, graphically and mechanically, because the first game came out all the way back in 2014, and this game comes out this year in October, so I'm sure they've improved on it a lot, and I am very excited to check it out. Now, with Bethesda done, like I said, they didn't have a lot of stuff. We'll move on to Ubisoft, who also didn't have a lot of stuff, but most of their stuff was very interesting and looked like it was fun. Like, most of the games looked genuinely fun to play. I wasn't too worried about like story or anything with these. I was just mostly worried about how fun they look. They had The Crew 2, which looks kind of like Steep, which was another Ubisoft game that they released recently, and I've played it a good amount. But in Steep, it's mostly like snow sports, and you can only change between like a few different things. But The Crew 2 looks like you can do it with cars and planes and boats and a whole lot of vehicles. You can just switch between everything on the go. I'm guessing that's what it's like. So it could be pretty fun, and I definitely want to check it out whenever it gets released, or if they have a demo or something. I'm probably going to check it out, or wait till some people have some actual gameplay, because I'm pretty sure they had like sort of some gameplay at the conference, but not a whole lot. And then another new game that Ubisoft had was Skull and Bones. It seems it's a pirate game, but they said that they took the boat aspects from Assassin's Creed 4 and they made like a whole game out of it, pretty much. And it looks like it could be pretty cool. I'm just wondering if you could actually get off the ship and play as a pirate, because if it's just ship combat, that might be slightly boring, or it could get boring after a while. So I'm not sure how that would work. I'd like to see I'd like to see a lot of these games. I like to see people actually play them. Also, they did show something like hinting at sea monsters, like the Kraken and stuff. So if you do fight sea monsters, that might be interesting. That might add to it if you can't do a lot of stuff. But it seems like a cool game. Again, though, it's another game we'd have to see, and possibly try out. And then they showed Starlink, which looks pretty interesting. It's a space game. It kind of looks like No Man's Sky a bit, but they didn't show too much gameplay, so I don't think you really collect stuff like in No Man's Sky. It looks just sort of like the flying and the entering the atmosphere and everything from No Man's Sky. And also, what they showed was you can like build your ships with some sort of toys that you can buy and like put on your controller. So to me, it kind of seemed like it was more like targeted towards adults, not kids, like the Skylanders and Disney Infinity toys that they had. Those are mostly targeted at kids. This kind of looks like it's targeted at adults or teenagers or something. But it's also going to be for kids, obviously. And it looks neat, but I'd, again, have to see some more gameplay to really know what it's about. And then one of the last games they showed was Far Cry 5, which is what everybody was kind of anticipating because they announced it pretty close to E3. And now we get to see what it's like. And it looks like it could be as good as Far Cry 3, if not better. Far Cry 3 was probably the best out of the recent Far Cries. I love Far Cry 3. I actually played through the whole thing. I never played the more recent ones like Primal and 4. But I didn't hear much about those. Like, people said, oh, they're okay. But nobody really like freaked out about them like Far Cry 3. Everybody loved Far Cry 3. And if Far Cry 5 is similar in terms of story and gameplay, then I think it could be a really good game. Also, possibly another Game of the Year contender if it's really that good. And I'm not entirely sure if it's 4-player co-op. They showed 4 characters. But if it's not 4-player co-op, I think they just said it was like 2-player co-op like throughout the whole game instead of like a couple missions, because I'm pretty sure that's how it was in the previous games. You could do co-op, but it was only like for certain missions or something. So Far Cry 5 seems like it'll be pretty good, and I'm very excited to play it whenever it comes out. And then the big thing that they announced at the Ubisoft panel was Beyond Good and Evil 2. This was a game that everybody was waiting for like 15 years, and they finally announced it. I believe they had announced it in the past, but they weren't entirely sure when it was coming out. But they finally announced it. It was only a cinematic trailer, but it looked really cool and interesting. And I played a little bit of the first one. I plan to finish it. I played a little bit after seeing this one because I knew everybody was so excited and everybody's loved Beyond Good and Evil since it came out. I wish I was excited as everybody else was, and I am excited just because everybody else is. Like, I love seeing games that take a long time to get announced, and then everybody getting excited about it at once, like Fallout 4 and Red Dead 2 and everything. It's nice to see everybody get excited about one thing and, you know, coming together and loving something. And yeah, it's similar to the reason why I love comic book movies and Star Wars and stuff like that so much, because people always come together for things that they really like and that are really good. Also, like, the atmosphere and everything of Beyond Good and Evil 2 looks really cool. I like how the world looks and everything. It seems like a very nice setting and it looks promising. I just kind of wish that it would have been kind of like Fallout 4, where they announced it and they're like, hey, and now it's out in 5 months and you get to play it. But it seems like they're still working on this game, so we might not get it for a little while longer, but I am very excited to play it whenever it finally comes out. And with that, that's the end of the Ubisoft conference, and now we're going to move on to Sony. The first big thing that Sony showed was Days Gone, which they showed at last year's E3. It was either last year's E3 or their PlayStation like thing that they hold at the end of every year. I don't remember exactly, but they showed Days Gone before, and it's a zombie type game. It looks like it could be interesting, but it kind of does look like another Last of Us type of game, but more action oriented. The Last of Us is more story driven, so Days Gone looks like it could be more, you know, action-y and gameplay oriented. So next on the Sony conference was Monster Hunter World. It looked sort of like a Dark Souls, Dragon's Dogma kind of game. It looks pretty interesting. I don't know anything about Monster Hunter, honestly. But I would definitely like to see more of what they showed at E3, because it looks quite interesting. And then they showed the Shadow of the Colossus remaster. I played a little bit of the original Shadow of the Colossus, and I enjoyed it, but I just never really went back to it. But now, since it's an actual remake, like they're actually changing some stuff with it and making it better and updated, I could definitely play through the whole thing now, because I always keep hearing that it's one of the best games ever. So I'm excited for that whenever it comes out. I don't think they really announced it, but I'm excited to check that out. And then they showed the Call of Duty World War II trailer, which, honestly, one of the only things that I was genuinely disappointed in was Call of Duty World War II. I mean, it looks fine. The trailer looked okay, and I'm sure the story will be alright. But the gameplay, like, honestly, it barely looks updated. It honestly looks like Call of Duty 3 and World at War, like the recent World War II games that they released. Like, it honestly doesn't look that much different to me. It looks like they barely tried with it. Like Battlefield 1, they did World War 1, which is the less like popular war in terms of entertainment and other things, but they still innovated and made it better than you would think it would be. Like, you wouldn't expect World War 1 to be an exciting video game, but Battlefield 1 did it easy. Call of Duty World War 2, it barely looks like they tried, honestly. And I don't understand, like, they were kind of going like a little too futuristic with it, but I thought the last game had an interesting concept, at least. It was in space. That was different than what Call of Duty usually does. But now they went back to World War II, and instead of innovating on it like Battlefield, they just looks like they're doing pretty much the same thing. So I'm not really looking forward to World War II at all, honestly. I don't know. I'm kind of done with Call of Duty at this point, because I've been playing Call of Duty since like Modern Warfare 2, and I stopped around Black Ops 2. I don't know. I don't really have much of an interest for Call of Duty anymore. They showed God of War, which I haven't played the other God of War games, but this one looks like it'll have much more interesting gameplay than just the typical hack and slash that the other games had. So I'm very excited to check this one out, because it looks sort of like a Last of Us type game, like a good, interesting story, but it looks like it also has good, interesting gameplay. and you would actually, have to try when you're playing the game. It's not just mash buttons or anything. Not that the other God of War games are bad, but that's what I saw from them. It was mostly just, hitting a couple buttons, getting through it pretty easy. Like, it never seemed very challenging. Although I've never played them. Maybe I'll try them, but it just didn't seem as challenging. This new God of War looks like it's challenging and actually has a more interesting story. They showed Detroit Become Human, which is another Quantic Dream game. They've made Heavy Rain and Beyond Two Souls, and both of those games were pretty interesting, but those are some of those games that are like very story driven. So I'm sure Detroit will be a good story game, but I'd like to see, more gameplay elements, because that's what a lot of people's problems are with the other games. They want more gameplay, not just the story. If they wanted the story, they'd watch a movie or something. Also, from the trailer, it seemed like you would have more choices than usual, and that they would actually be impactful. Like in Heavy Rain and Beyond Two Souls, I remember people saying there was a few choices, and sometimes no matter what choice you picked, the same thing would happen, so it was kind of pointless. But Detroit seems like it actually has, meaningful choices that actually impact the story. So I think we'll just have to wait and see till it comes out, or maybe see somebody play like a demo or something of it. We might actually see more of that in some of these other games that PlayStation Experience that I was talking about, because that is PSX. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's later on this year, in November or December usually, I believe. And then they also showed Destiny 2, a little bit more gameplay. They've already showed some. Destiny had their whole conference on their own before E3, but they showed some more gameplay here. And I don't know, Destiny 2 is really hard for me, because I was one of the people who was very excited for the first Destiny. I got a PlayStation 4 basically to play Destiny, and I was very excited. It seemed like it was going to be a Star Wars type, universe. And like I said earlier, I love Star Wars, but I don't know. I enjoyed Destiny when it came out, but it just wasn't really what I wanted, and it was kind of disappointing. And I say that even though I have like 300 hours on the game, but I wasn't entirely disappointed, but I still wanted to see more, and it seems like they're adding that to Destiny 2. It seems like they've listened to everybody, because the game's been out for 3 years. There's been plenty of feedback. They've done plenty of different things. Some things people like, some people didn't like. So I feel like they've improved stuff, but I'm not entirely sure. I don't think I will be 100% sure if it's better than the first Destiny until I play it myself. And play the full game. I'm gonna play the beta on PS4 and PC, but I feel I played the beta for the first game, and I was like, oh man, this is going to be great when they add all the other stuff. And then the full game came out, and they added all that other stuff, but it wasn't that much. It's like, oh, okay. Well, I guess I'll just have to wait for more DLC. I hope this has enough stuff to keep me and everyone else interested in the game when it comes out. Because I don't want it to, like, I'm trying to think. I don't want it to quote unquote die right away, even though the first game didn't die right away. It's just a lot of people left when they first played it, and I feel like a lot of people are going to play Destiny 2, and they might leave or they might stay. So I'm hoping a lot of people stay. I hope they have a reason to. I hope Destiny 2 is very good. But yeah, every time I see new gameplay for it, I get more excited. The PC gameplay, I've watched multiple videos of it in 60 frames, 1080p, and it just looks great every time. Even though it's the same like first mission, it looks fantastic. So I'm very hopeful for this game, and I hope that it has the substance that it should, not just the looks and the gameplay like it did for the first game. So, I'm very hopeful, but I'm also skeptical this time. Unlike the first time when I was just super hype, I'm keeping my hype maintained, I guess. And now, last but definitely not least, because this was probably my favorite game that I saw at E3, the PS4 Spider-Man game. This is the game from E3 that I'm most excited about, like probably right next to Star Wars. Spider-Man is my favorite superhero. I believe I said that already. He's my absolute favorite hero out of all the Avengers and Justice League and every superhero. Spider-Man is my favorite. I've loved him since I was a kid. I watched, most of the animated shows that they had. I played most of the Spider-Man games. I played the one in 2000. I played the movie game, Spider-Man 2, which is one of the best. I play Ultimate Spider-Man, which is my absolute favorite, Spider-Man game, and just the comics. I read the Ultimate Spider-Man comics. That's probably one of the only entire comic book series that I've actually read, all the way through, and I really enjoy Ultimate Spider-Man. That's why I'm looking forward to the new movie, because it kind of seems similar in ways to Ultimate Spider-Man. So yeah, I really love Spider-Man, and I am very excited for this game. I was excited when they just showed a cinematic trailer last year at E3, and now that they showed gameplay, and that was the last thing that they showed, and they showed it was at least 10 minutes of it or something. It's just, the game looks very fun, and I am very excited to play it. I'm really sad that it doesn't come out till next year, but I'm going to play it as soon as it comes out. The combat looks a lot like Arkham kind of combat or Shadow of Mordor, that kind of combat. It looks like it'll, sort of challenge you at points. You'll actually have to think about what you're doing, not just, as I said, not just, pressing buttons. You actually have to think about what you do. But this also seems more Spider-Man-like. He's doing flips and webbing people up and everything. And the gameplay looks fantastic. The web swinging obviously looks great. It looks similar to Spider-Man 2 or Ultimate Spider-Man, which definitely have the best web swinging out of all Spider-Man games, probably. And I hope it also has a very interesting story, something maybe like Spider-Man Web of Shadows, or like an Arkham game where Spider-Man just has a lot of villains that he has to fight. So I just hope it's something maybe interesting and new. Doesn't have to be completely new, but something that we haven't seen in a Spider-Man game before, maybe. It'd be really cool also if we could see some other Marvel characters, kind of like Web of Shadows. Like I said, Web of Shadows is also a very good game. I played that when that came out, and that was a pretty great game too, because I was expecting it to just be Spider-Man, but they had a bunch of people in there. They had Black Widow and S.H.I.E.L.D. I think they had Nick Fury in there. I don't remember exactly. They had Luke Cage, Wolverine, Moon Knight. They had a bunch of great other characters, so I'd like to see some other Marvel characters in this PS4 Spider-Man too. I don't expect it to be, the MCU where he's actually pretty much part of the Avengers, but I'd like to see some other characters. That would be nice. And if we don't get to see them, at least I hope we would get to see a variety of Spider-Man villains, because he usually does have, he does have pretty good villains, I think. Also, they kind of teased Miles Morales at the end of the trailer, and I'm hoping that he'll be part of the story, because, like I said, I read all of Ultimate Spider-Man, and I read the Miles Morales part after that, and I really started to like Miles, and everybody else likes Miles Morales a lot too. So I'm hoping he could somehow be part of the story, or maybe even he could be playable. That would be really interesting to see. If he got his powers while Peter Parker's still around, that would be great to see two Spider-Men. Also, it'd be insane if he could be if you could do co-op. That would be amazing if they could have co-op in the game somehow. I would die if that happened. That would be so great. So Spider-Man is definitely one of the games I'm most looking forward to in the next couple of years. So that does it for the Sony press conference. Again, I thought they had pretty good games. They all look like they'll be very interesting whenever they come out. As most of the games at E3, I feel like I'm going to need to get some hands-on with some of these games, but some like Spider-Man, I'm 100% sure about. I'm going to love that game. So I'm very excited to see most of these games come out. And then last but not least, there was the Nintendo press conference. I saw some of the games. I didn't actually watch the conference, and they didn't really have a conference. It was their treehouse thing that they do. It's kind of just a small thing that they do for themselves, I guess, but they broadcast it. And I saw some of the games that they announced, but I wasn't super excited about any of them really, except for, I mean, I have to talk about Metroid because everybody's been waiting for Metroid for like 8 years or something. It's still not as long as Beyond Good and Evil 2, but everybody's been waiting for Metroid for a while, and they finally announced it. They didn't show anything about it, but they did announce it, so that's cool that people finally get that after they've been waiting for so long. And the one game that I did see that I'm very excited about is Super Mario Odyssey. Super Mario Odyssey looks like it'll be almost as good, if not like just as good or better than Breath of the Wild. Like, it looks like it's another Game of the Year contender. Like, Breath of the Wild and Super Mario Odyssey, 2 Nintendo games, are like Game of the Year worthy. That's kind of crazy, because usually Nintendo games are just, fun, and a lot of people like them, but they're not, masterpieces of games. But these look like they're masterpieces. They look like, Super Mario Odyssey kind of seems like Super Mario 64 or Super Mario Sunshine, some of those older games that everybody loves, just like Breath of the Wild kind of goes back to Ocarina of Time and all the games that everybody loved. And I haven't played Breath of the Wild yet, but when I get my Switch, I'll be very excited, because hopefully I'll get it before Mario Odyssey or after. And if I get it after, I'll have 2 amazing games to play. And I don't know, I'm just very excited for Mario Odyssey. I saw it when they announced it at their Nintendo Switch thing, like way before E3. And I was like, okay, that could be good and interesting. But when I saw the trailer, it was amazing, honestly. I don't play a lot of Mario games. I have played Mario games, obviously. Most people have, I bet. But I'm very excited for this, because I'm glad that I'll be able to play it when it comes out. I never played Super Mario Sunshine or Super Mario 64. Like, I never played any of those games when they came out. So I'm excited that I'll actually be able to get to play this game, like, right when it comes out. And now that we have the internet, I'll have the community, and everybody will be freaking out about it like they were doing for Breath of the Wild. They'll be talking about how great the game is, and I'll be able to be a part of that, and I'm excited for that. So Super Mario Odyssey is one of the games I'm very much excited for in the coming years, just like Spider-Man and all the other games that are coming out soon. Alright, so that about does it for my E3 talk. That was actually a lot longer than I kind of wanted it to be. And this is probably going for a lot longer than I wanted it to be. I actually had to take a break in the middle. Yeah. So, the last big thing I'm going to talk about is Wonder Woman, the big movie of the month that is not just big movie of the month, but it's one of the biggest movies of the year and probably most recent years, because I'm sure most people thought Wonder Woman was just going to be another, Batman v Superman or Suicide Squad. It would be okay, but not that great. But everybody was pretty happy that they were wrong, because Wonder Woman was fantastic. I loved the movie, and it was a movie that I was surprised at how good it was. I haven't really felt that way about a lot of movies in recent years. Recently, I probably felt the way about like the Lego Batman movie. That was back in February. Like, I knew it was going to be good because the first Lego movie was great, but Lego Batman movie like exceeded my expectations. It was so good. And then before that, I mean, it was probably all the way back in like 2014 when a movie surprised me for like Interstellar or Guardians of the Galaxy 1. Those movies, I knew they were going to be good, but I didn't think they were going to be, that good. So it's been a while since movies have really surprised me. And I knew Wonder Woman was good when I saw it, because I saw it about 2 weeks after it came out. And that, plenty of people saw it when it came out, so they were already freaking out and going crazy. And I didn't expect it to be as good as it was still. But yeah, like, I can't stress that enough. People saying stuff about it doesn't do it justice, I guess. You kind of have to see it for yourself, because it was a very special movie. And after seeing the movie, it kind of gave me faith in the DCEU again, because if Justice League is half as good as Wonder Woman, then I'll be happy with it. And if it isn't, I'll just have to look forward to more Wonder Woman movies after that, since she's clearly the best in the universe. Also, one thing I really liked was the little DC intro that they had before the movie. It was very reminiscent of the Justice League animated intro, which a lot of people said. And I loved that show as a kid. And after thinking about that show recently, I realized how much I really do love the Justice League. When I saw the Justice League actors all together in a set photo that they took when they were all standing together, that immediately made me realize how special Justice League was to me, because I love the Avengers and Marvel, but I've really grown to love DC even more, especially after playing Injustice 2 and reading some of the new Rebirth comics and watching some of the new animated movies lately. I just kept thinking back to the Justice League animated series and Teen Titans and all the DC stuff I used to watch as a kid, and I really loved those and enjoyed those. That's kind of what got me into DC, so I realized how special Justice League is to me. And I really want them to succeed the way Marvel's succeeding, because Marvel's doing a great job with their movies, and DC's trying to do it, and I feel like now that they've seen Wonder Woman was so good, hopefully they'll start making stuff similar to Wonder Woman, so it'll do better critically, and it'll definitely do better financially. Alright, so now we can talk about the actual movie. I knew that there weren't any men at the beginning, because that was Themyscira, that's the home of the Amazons, but I guess I didn't really notice it, because it felt like men didn't need to be there. That was their island, that was the women's island, and they all looked like they were great warriors and that they belonged there, and all the actresses did a great job. And I also liked how they were pretty, diverse. They weren't just white women or, women that would look Amazonian in the past, like in the comics. They were all pretty diverse race-wise and size, and they all, looked like they were strong and that they belonged there. And I really liked that about the beginning. Also, the part that I liked was the setting and the music all made it feel sort of like a fantasy, sort of like Lord of the Rings. That's what I kept kind of getting, like a Lord of the Rings vibe for it, mostly because the scenery, the music, the stories that Diana's mother told her. So I really enjoyed that part of it too. And in the other DC movies, most people's problems were usually like pacing. They kind of thought the pacing was kind of weird. Like, it took a while for stuff to happen, but Wonder Woman I felt was perfect. It showed the society of the Amazons, and then it brought the conflict with Steve Trevor and the Germans, and then that gave Diana a purpose. She wanted to go help people after she heard there was a war going on. Instead of her training for a long time or debating or whatever with her mother, that stuff already happened, so she just went right into the real world, and her in the real world was done very well. I thought she didn't seem like she was completely oblivious to things, because they kind of explained that already. She had read about the real world. She's never been there, so she was curious about things and wanted to know more since she had never been there. You could tell that she has learned a lot since being in the real world, because in Batman v Superman, she was very intelligent when she's Diana Prince, and you could tell that she's kind of made her way into society. And Chris Pine as Steve Trevor, I thought he added pretty well to her being in the real world. He was trying to make her act normal, but he understood that she wasn't normal he understood that she wasn't normal and that she was from a different world, so she was slightly confused by some of the things, and he helped her out. Then when they went to war, that's when things started to get really good. When she got out of the trenches and started crossing the no man's land and inspiring everybody, I was thinking to myself, I wish they would have done this with Superman in this universe. I wish they would show Superman like they did in the old movies back in the 70s and 80s, where he was the ray of hope and inspiration, and everybody wanted Superman to save her. Superman could save everybody all at once and be the best superhero he could be. And as I was thinking that, and as Wonder Woman was, doing all her great stuff, it hit me that she's basically this universe's Superman. We don't need Superman to be the all-powerful, great superhero and sign of hope and inspiration, because Wonder Woman is already that, which I kind of appreciate, because I'm glad she's pretty much the way she is in the comics. So I'm glad they didn't change her up too much, and I'm glad. I like seeing superheroes like that inspire people and that it give hope to everyone. Also, yeah, she's kind of like the perfect type of superhero. She's trying to do her own stuff. She's trying to stop Ares and all the war from going on, but she's going to save the people along the way because she knows that's the right thing to do, and that's what she wants to do. She wants to help all the people. So I think they did that very well with her. And now the problems that I had in the movie were very minor. I think one thing that was kind of weird to me was the part at the beginning where Steve was in the bathroom and she walked in, or whatever. It was like the bathhouse or whatever. That was kind of awkward and unnecessary because like they were like making innuendos, but they were being serious about some stuff. It felt really awkward and weird. I felt like they didn't need that. There was the one part later on where they were on the boat, like going towards the real world, and they were kind of like, making little references, but I thought that was done better. I don't know why the first bath part was so awkward, but I felt like that was unnecessary. Kind of like in Suicide Squad where they had like the Joker and Harley Quinn in the strip club or whatever. Like I felt that was completely unnecessary. So I don't know why they keep putting stuff like that in the movies. And also, I heard a lot of people say that the CGI at the end was kind of weird at times. It was a little CGI heavy, and it didn't all look the best that it could, particularly with like the explosions and the lightning effects on Ares, because he summoned lightning at a lot of points, and most of it did look kind of weird at times, but I feel like the overall reason for the fight and everything and the story behind it all, I felt like that was more important than the visuals of it. So it didn't bother me too much, but I did see the little problems that they had. But again, it didn't affect the story in any way. All in all, I really enjoyed Wonder Woman, and I can't wait to see what the DCEU does next with her and all their superheroes, because I really hope that they make them how they're supposed to be, inspirational and hopeful and heroes mostly. Because in Batman v Superman, I mean, they're both heroes, but they're mostly preoccupied with their own problems. And Wonder Woman, she was saving people. She had her own like agenda. She wanted to stop Ares, but along the way, she knew that the people needed help, and she was the only person that could help them, so she helped them. So I just hope that DC will do that with the rest of their heroes, not just Wonder Woman. And yeah, I hope they would be somewhat close to the amount of, like, I hope their movies can be almost as good as the MCU, because I'd love both of them to succeed. That would give us even greater stuff to watch and enjoy, and that's pretty much what entertainment's all about. It's for fun and enjoyment. So that's my little review, I guess, technically, of Wonder Woman. And now, to close this out, because this has been pretty long, and I'm going to have to get used to talking for a long period of time like this. But to close it out, I want to talk about some of my future plans for my channel. One thing to address, I still do plan on uploading the older stuff that I haven't uploaded yet, like Batman Telltale and some Left 4 Dead stuff and other stuff that I haven't uploaded yet. And it's been a while, but I do plan on uploading it. I just have to get to editing it. I just have to get around to editing it. I also have done some other Telltale games so far. I've done the Guardians of the Galaxy one. I've started on The Walking Dead. I plan to do all 3 seasons at some point. And like I said, whatever older stuff I have, I'll probably upload that randomly. Now, I have some new ideas for some series. One series that I want to try to do soon, I'm going to call it Thick Throwback. I'm going to think about that. I might change that name, but I was thinking like Throwback Thursday, like TBT, and then I try to just put my name in there somehow. It's not the best name, and it might just be a temporary name, but the plan of the series is to play older games, mainly games that are older than like 10 years from this year. So 10 years ago would be 2007. So I'd like to play some games that are older than 2007 and before, so I could play anything from, games in the 80s or the 90s to something that came out in like 2005 or something. And the first game that I plan on playing is Beyond Good and Evil, like I was saying. I have played a little bit of it, but I figured I could record that as a throwback video and I could start the series off with a great game. So I plan on doing that. Not entirely sure when it's going to happen, but should be soon. And then another series that I have an idea for. I've had an idea for a couple months now, but I don't really want to give it away yet because I'm hoping to make this my like long running enjoyable series that I can do every week, because a lot of YouTube channels that I love and other YouTube channels in general have their like weekly show like series that everybody loves. Like Funhouse, they have Demo Disc. Cow Chop, they have their Amazon series. Achievement Hunter has Minecraft. Donkey has his new Jam Pack series that he's making, and etc. Plenty of people have their own kind of series that's special and that they work hard on. And I would just like to do that for my channel. I've thought about one thing in particular for a while. I just need to like work out the kinks, I guess, and just I like to make this a series where I put the most effort into it, and I'd like to show it to many people, and I'd like to make something good for myself and for people to enjoy. That's one of the main reasons why I'm trying to do YouTube. I'm trying to get better at all this stuff on my own so I can kind of be proud of myself, but I'd also like to, show people some cool stuff that I can make, and I'd like to entertain people and give them some sort of enjoyment, because I watch so many different YouTube channels and I get lots of enjoyment out of them. So I'd kind of like to contribute in the same way if I can. So that series will be coming at some point. Like I said, I've had the idea for a long time. If you want me to tell you the truth, I've had it since like January, but I just haven't really done anything. And I've done some stuff, but not enough. So when it's ready, I will release it, and I hope it'll be enjoyable. And of course, I'll talk about this series, Oceanview. That's the running name for now. I might change it in the future, but like I said, I kind of want my channel to be like ocean themed in a way. So I'm going to keep it like that for the moment. And this is kind of my solution to like a podcast and reviews and whatever I wanted to make. So I'm going to try this out. I might change it up. I might add some different stuff in the future. Like I might have some segments or something in it. And like I said, I might have friends that join me. But for the time being, it'll probably just be like it was today. I'll just talk about some stuff that I enjoy and stuff that's happened in the past month that could affect entertainment overall. Like I said, video games or movies or TV. If something affects that, maybe I'll like some news I could talk about. I don't know. I'm just trying this out. Like I said, I'm not too sure how this will work out, but it'll evolve, I'm sure. This isn't going to be the same. I'm not going to do the same thing every time, obviously. It'll evolve over time, I'm sure. That's kind of what I'm hoping on. So, if you enjoyed this, please subscribe to me for any of my other content. And if you'd like to see more podcasts or anything, I guess you can let me know. I may do it more often, like I said, if there's a lot of stuff in the month. If not, it'll be monthly. But if you'd like to see more, check back. And if you enjoy my content, please let me know. I'm trying my best to put out as much content as I can, because I don't really like putting something out every once in a while. I'd like to put stuff out more consistently. So that's the goal. And so far I'm enjoying what I'm doing. So if you like it, please stick around. Thank you for watching. My name's ThickManatee, and I will see you guys later.